Today, we are diving into one of the most, ambitious open source AI projects I have ever come across. It's called Nova, and it's an attempt to build a completely new kind of AI, not just for one specific task, but for civilization itself. Yeah, let's find out what that even means. Okay, so right off the bat, the project's official description is a lot. I mean, that sounds like it was pulled straight from a sci-fi novel, right? But what on earth is a multicultural truth synthesis engine with a 10-slot cognitive architecture supposed to be? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down. So here's the plan. We'll start with that huge question. Why even try to build an AI for civilization? Then we're going to peek inside its so-called 10-slot brain, see how it actually tries to process truth, and of course, look at its safety guards. After that, we'll cover the plan for going global, and we'll end with a glimpse of the future that, trust me, might just blow your mind. All right, so first things first, why build something so audacious, so huge as an AI for civilization? Well, it turns out the whole project started by trying to solve a really fundamental problem in the world today. I mean, just think about it for a second. We are absolutely drowning in information, misinformation, and just countless different cultural perspectives. Trying to find any kind of common ground or even a shared sense of what's real is getting harder and harder every single day. Nova is basically a grand experiment to answer that very question. Can we actually design a system to help us synthesize understanding across all of these divides? So, to even begin to tackle a problem that big, Nova uses this really unique structure. Instead of one giant monolithic AI, its intelligence is spread out across 10 specialized cognitive slots. You can almost think of it like a brain that has 10 different departments, and each one has a very specific job to do. And these 10 slots, they're not just random. They're organized into 4 distinct layers. You've got the foundation layer, which is all about anchoring the system in reality and even understanding emotion. Then there's the processing layer, where all the heavy lifting of reasoning happens. The control layer, that's your governance and safety. And finally, the deployment layer, which manages how this whole thing actually interacts with the world. Now, tying all of these pieces together is something called the orchestrator. And it really does act like a central nervous system. It takes in all the data from the outside world and routes it to the correct slot, managing this incredibly complex flow of information. It's basically the conductor of this entire cognitive orchestra. You know, with a system this complex, it really helps to just follow a single process from start to finish. So let's look at how Nova handles one of its most critical tasks, taking in new information and trying to figure out its truth. This all happens in a specific pathway they call the flow mesh. So this process has 3 key steps. First, any new information gets scored with a truth residence index. You can basically think of it as a credibility rating. Next, slot 5 maps that information, sort of clustering similar ideas together. And then finally, and this part is absolutely crucial, slot 6 validates it against different cultural context before any action is taken. This little group, the flow mesh cluster, it acts like a dedicated assembly line for making sense of the world. And you can see it right here in this diagram, how slot 4, the scoring engine, feeds information over to slot 5, the mapping engine, which then gives all that crucial context to slot 6 for the cultural validation step. It's a really neat little system. Okay, so for any system this powerful and complex, the immediate question that pops into my head, and probably yours too, is it safe? Well, Nova's architecture has multiple layers of defense built right in, which the developers describe as a kind of evolving autonomous immune system for the AI. And this comparison really shows you just how seriously they are taking security. The old legacy system was a pretty simple protection layer, but the new one they're getting ready, Memory Lock, is a whole different beast. It's got autonomous self-healing and uses some pretty advanced cryptographic methods like Merkle trees, which is just a fancy way of fingerprinting data, to guarantee that nothing's been tampered with. And here's the number that really shows how effective it is. 2.1 seconds. That is the average mean time to recovery for this advanced system. What that means is, when it detects that its data has been corrupted or attacked, it can autonomously heal itself in just over 2 seconds. That is incredibly fast. And it's not just about protecting its memory. Other slots create this multi-layered defense. You've got slot 7 acting like a circuit breaker to stop any failures from spreading. Slot 3, the emotional matrix, is fascinating. It's designed specifically to detect emotional threats, like manipulation. And then slot 9 adds yet another layer of defense against corrupted information.
Okay, so we have this incredibly complex self-healing system. But what does that final, most ambitious goal, civilizational deployment, what does that actually look like in the real world? It's definitely not about just flipping a switch and turning it on for the whole planet.
No, the plan is a very cautious, multi-phase rollout. It starts with a stealth integration, then moves into careful calibration and validation. And this part is so important. It includes a consensus integration phase, specifically for engaging with stakeholders before a final, massive security review. This whole thing is designed to be a very careful, very deliberate process.
So we've seen what Nova is, how it works, and its grand ambitions. But honestly, the story of how it was actually created might be the most interesting part of all. It really offers a glimpse into a whole new way of building technology.
And here it is. This is the big reveal. Nova wasn't just built by a human team. It was a collaborative project between a human coordinator and a team of different AIs. Each AI system had a specific role. Claude handled the architecture. Gemini did analysis, DeepSeek focused on optimization, and others were there just to generate and refine the code.
And this is what I find so profound about this whole thing. The very process of its creation is a demonstration of what it's trying to achieve: complex, coordinated intelligence. It's like we're getting a sneak peek of a future where humans and multiple AIs work together to build things that none of them could possibly create alone.
And that leaves us with this final, really powerful question. Yeah, Nova is an experiment in building an AI for civilization, but the way it was made proves that AIs can already work together as a team on incredibly complex engineering projects. So the real question isn't just about what Nova can do, but what a team of AIs working together could build for us next.